So in this class, we are going to discuss one of the very important Shakespearean comedies, play. First, let us understand the Shakespearean comedy features. Earlier, we understood the Shakespearean tragedy features. So Shakespearean tragedy has few features, like it has soliloquies, it has noble birth, it has comic relief. So all in the same way, even Shakespearean comedy has few features. Yesterday though we completed Tempest, but we should know what are the Shakespearean comedy features so that we can apply to all the comedies of Shakespeare. Now in the Shakespearean comedy, the noble characters are also there. That means not only the commoners, even the noble characters are also involved in Shakespearean comedies. Whereas in Shakespearean tragedy, all the major characters are the important characters in the Shakespearean tragedy are from the noble families only. And here there are noble characters as well as commoners also. Ordinary people also become part of the Shakespearean comedies. And then in Shakespearean tragedy, I am just comparing these two so that it will be easy for you to understand. In Shakespearean tragedies, hero got importance, whereas in Shakespearean comedies, heroines got importance. So that is the difference between Shakespearean tragedy and Shakespearean comedy. In examination, if they ask you a question, who get more importance in Shakespearean comedy, hero, heroine, then you have to go with the answer, it is heroine. Then Shakespearean comedy has one more feature of mistaken identity or misconceptions. So people develop difference of opinions and they get different problems. And then even the mistaken identity, the women disguise in men. So they create a lot of comedy for the audience who watch. So mistaken identity or misconceptions are part of Shakespearean comedy. Then we have exaggeration of our own follies or mistakes. So though it is comedy, but follies are highlighted, our mistakes are highlighted, characters' follies are highlighted. Whenever the character commits any error, that has been highlighted in the Shakespearean comedy, not in a very serious manner, but it is in a delicate manner so that audience get some kind of humor out of the witty dialogues or this kind of exaggeration of own follies and mistakes of the characters. Generally, fools, jesters in those comedies, they comment on other characters and they create some kind of humor in this process. Then plot twist or multiple plot lines are part of Shakespearean comedies. So we don't know where the plot will take turns and twist, sudden changes and then sudden twist in the plot are part of the Shakespearean comedy. But in Shakespearean tragedy, the plot runs in the similar manner. There will be no many twists and turns in the Shakespearean tragedy. Whereas in Shakespearean comedy, like if you take Midsummer Night's Dream or if you take the As You Like It, which we are going to discuss, there are so many turns and twists in the plot and there are multiple plots. There are so many plots are simultaneously or parallelly going on or running in the same story. And then in the Shakespearean comedy, one more feature is didactic in nature. That means these Shakespearean comedies are plays written by Shakespeare tries to teach something to the audience or try to teach something to the characters. Whoever reads these things, they will try to learn something in the life. So these are in didactic in nature. That means they teach something to the audience. Whereas Shakespearean tragedy, it is only blood and all those violence. There is nothing to learn. Only thing we can watch, we can enjoy the tragedies or the plays written by Shakespearean tragedies. And then in Shakespearean tragedies, we have so many soliloquies. Even of course in Shakespearean comedies also we may be having soliloquies, but there are more interesting songs and dances. It will be very colorful. Shakespearean tragedy is like a modern Bollywood movie. So there are so many interesting songs are there, dances are there in the Shakespearean comedy. And then one of the most important features of Shakespearean comedy is element of disguise. Heroine changes her appearance and become man in disguise, and when she met her love interest or beloved, then how they play the witty dialogues and the romance between these two, unknowingly, unfortunately, the hero who doesn't recognize the one who is actually speaking his own love interest. So all those things comes under, creates a great comedy or a humor for the audience or in the storyline. So element of disguise is a part of the Shakespearean Shakespearean comedy. Then there is one very important place in the Shakespearean comedy where they changes where the characters are changed, bad people become good people and those evil characters turns into very noble characters. These things are part of Shakespearean comedy only, not in Shakespearean tragedy. Claudius remains Claudius, Hamlet remained Hamlet till the end of the play, and all were killed in the Shakespearean tragedy. Whereas in this Shakespearean comedies, even the evil characters, bad characters also change into good people at the end of the story. So idyllic setting. So the entire change happens in the Forest of Arden. The spelling can be different, but Forest of Arden remains same. And this is the setting, this is the place where the character's transformation took place in Shakespearean comedy place. And it is his Shakespeare's mother's place. Forest of Arden is Shakespeare's mother place. He has used this Forest of Arden in his Shakespearean comedies. And then it's not about the villain, it's not about the hero, all those things. Fate plays crucial role in Shakespearean comedies. And then we have so many great love stories are there, and there is a separation and reunification, and that creates a big love story, huge love drama, and most of us we enjoy when they separated and how do they reunion, and that creates a lot of suspense and lot of it's about a love stories. Maximum we can take, it's a love story. There will be a lot of fun, there will be witty dialogues, exchange of romance, and all those things part of Shakespearean comedy. So separation and reunification is also one of the important features of Shakespearean comedies. It ends happy end. There is no death, there is no unnecessary problems. All these Shakespearean comedies ends with happy endings, with big fat marriages. I may have to use this word. All these characters at the end of the story are major characters at the end of the story. They'll find their love interest, their love has been accepted by their love interest, and they end with a marriage. And then poetic justice. What is this poetic justice? Good people will be rewarded, bad people are punished. So that is called poetic justice. So these are the Shakespearean comedy features. Like we compared, we have Shakespearean tragedy written by A.C. Bradley. We have to study even Shakespearean comedy features also, because they may ask you a question about which one is not the Shakespearean comedy or feature of the Shakespearean comedy. So let me quickly revise what are the Shakespearean comedy features. Noble characters are also part of this play, and they get even normal characters or ordinary characters even make fun of the noble characters in this play, but not in tragedies. Noble characters will not be criticized by the ordinary characters. Whereas in Shakespearean comedy, Shakespeare allowed the commoners or normal or ordinary people to even pass comments, criticize the actions done by the dukes, noblemen, and all those people. So those were the fools or jesters who had that courage to play with those noble characters. And in this Shakespearean comedies, heroines play most important role and heroines dominate it. Okay, so feminists like Shakespearean comedies more than Shakespearean tragedies. And mistaken identity or misconception, the characters don't know who the one who is standing in front of them, with whom they are talking. That is mistaken identity or misconceptions. And then exaggerating our own follies, mistakes, not in a very serious manner, it is in a normal a kind of humor. And then there will be so many plot twists and multiple plot lines are part of Shakespearean comedies. And then didactic in nature. When you read Shakespearean tragedy like Othello, Macbeth, or Julius Caesar, what is there? There is blood and all those things. There is nothing much to learn. But whereas in Shakespearean comedies, we learn so many things. So didactic in nature means these plays can teach something to the society. Interesting songs and dances are part of Shakespearean comedy. Element of disguise, women in disguise of men. So they do a lot of comedy in those way. And idyllic setting, Forest of Arden, where evil characters turn into good. And fate plays crucial role. Separation, reunification of the lovers, and all this ends with a happy marriage. And then the poetic justice is done in this Shakespearean comedy. So these are the features of Shakespearean comedy. Now we will apply these features to one of the Shakespearean comedies for today's one. Actually, what I mean to say that it is not practically possible for me to teach all the plays of Shakespeare. Whichever play I feel important, whichever play is important according to examination point of view, I have taken few plays. I have completed the Shakespearean tragedies, Macbeth, Hamlet, Julius Caesar, and then Tempest comedy, and then we are going to discuss today's As You Like It. There are so many other plays are there, you have to read by your own. So now let us come with this some important technical information about 3 unities. Yesterday in the last class we discussed Tempest has 3 unities. Shakespeare observed all these 3 unities only in one play, that is Tempest. So what are the three unities? The first one is unity of action, second one is unity of place or space, and third one is unity of time. So what is unity of action? Logical connection between two episodes, acts. The king died, and an act of grief, the queen died. That means there should be a logical connection between one action to another action, or one episode to another episode, or one act to another act. That is the unity of action. You cannot start with the death of the king and suddenly the queen become jubilant and celebrating. So there is no connection between these two. So unity of action means there must be a logical connection between two episodes and acts. Then unity of place and space. Unity of place and space means the action should be done in a particular place. You cannot begin the action in Paris, you can't end in the Germany. There must be one place where entire story completes in one setup, or in one place or one space. Time means it is one day. The action should begin and the action should end on the same day. So these are the three unities of time: unities of place, unity of action, unity of place, space, and unity of time. So all these are followed by Shakespeare in the play The Tempest. Okay, and then Aristotle in 16th century, he proposed two unities only: unity of place and space, and unity of time. But Shakespeare added even unity of action also. Right. And tragedy, how many acts will be in the tragedy? It will be definitely 5 acts. So if you get a question in examination, how many acts are in the Macbeth, or how many acts are in the Julius Caesar or any other Shakespearean tragedy, you have to go with the 5 acts. And then some important information with respect to the examination point of view. The first English comedy play is written by Nicholas Woodall, and that is Rolf Royster Doyster. And then Gorboduc, Ferrex and Porrex is the first English tragedy written by Thomas Norton and Thomas Sackville. So these are some important information which I thought to share with you before I start the Shakespearean comedy as you like it. Good evening, Danny ma'am. Am I audible?
Good evening, sir. Yes, sir.
Venkatesh sir, good evening. Preeti ma'am, good evening.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Preeti, good evening. Am I audible, Preeti? Preeti, am I audible? Right, fine. Let us start the class. So now, as you like it, how many of you have read this play? Goji?
Yes, sir, I read the play. Not the full text, but I know the summary and the story.
Right. So you have at least some idea about this Shakespearean play as you like it. It's a comedy and a very popular comedy among Shakespearean comedies. I suppose, Danny, last time you explained the summary in this class, correct?
Yes, sir.
I have allotted the plays to you, Diksha, Preeti, and some other. So
Yeah.
each one explained one play, I suppose. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Venkatesh sir, did you study this play? Venkatesh sir?
Yes, sir, I studied, but I forgot. It's long back.
Right. Okay. If I am audible, Preeti, you can respond because I can't hear you from your side. If you are performing puja and attending classes, then fine. Right. Now, let us go with the character sketch. On the left side, I have posted one photograph. You can look at the photograph, and with the help of the photograph, you can identify who is Rosalinda, or who is Rosalind in this picture. Ghoshji.
Rosalind, sir,
If you have
that is
studied...
the navy blue color dress.
Right. Okay. Let us go with the Rosalind. So Rosalind is the central character or the female protagonist of the play as you like it. So Shakespeare was very broad-minded in those days, in that century, 17th century only. He was so broad-minded, and he had made a woman character to become the leading character in a play. And the society in which Shakespeare was living also appreciated this kind of play. Okay. The reason why I told you this background information is, if you watch any movie or anything at present, all these movies or the storylines of these movies are try to please the common public and common public sentiments. That means no film director or no film producer dare to do something which is against to the people's beliefs. If they do such thing, generally the movie will become a flop. But in those days only, Shakespeare had written a comedy in that he highlighted or he made the female character as a lady protagonist or the one of the most important characters and powerful characters in the play. So you can understand even Shakespeare can be taken as a feminist, or he doesn't have any kind of a gender bias. Now coming to the character introduction, the central character of the play is Rosalind. She is confident, witty, young woman, disguises herself, goes into exile. So that is one of the important features. I'll explain the story. So Rosalind is the central character, and then her father is Duke Senior, who is a very good person by heart. And when his brother Duke Frederick, who wishfully occupied the kingdom and made Duke Senior to exile to the forest of Arden, Duke Senior was not sad, and he accepted that one, and he along with his followers he went to forest of Arden, and he was spending his life in the forest of Arden. Forest of Arden is a place you have to remember. So Rosalind's father is Duke Senior, and Duke Senior was the Duke, and he was exiled by his own brother Duke Frederick, and Duke Frederick was now the king or duke of that particular place. And when he exiled Duke Senior, he allowed Rosalinda to stay in his court because Duke Frederick's daughter Celia and Rosalind are very good friends. So who is Celia? Celia is a loyal young woman, disguises herself voluntarily to go into exile. When Duke Frederick banished or exiled Duke Senior, and after few incidents he even threatened Rosalind to move out of the court, Rosalind went, and even Celia also accompanied Rosalind. So Rosalind and Celia are the two women who escaped or who went into the forest of Arden. And Celia and Rosalind, they change their appearances. Rosalind take the appearance of a man, and Celia remains woman only, and she acts like she is the sister of that male the Rosalind, who is in disguise. Then we have male protagonist who is the love interest of Rosalind, and his name is Orlando. Orlando is a brave romantic nobleman but not very well educated, because his brother Orlando's brother Oliver was jealous about Orlando, and after the death of Oliver's and Orlando's father, Oliver became the duke, and he wanted to somehow kill Orlando so that he would not get any kind of competition from Orlando. So Oliver and Orlando are brothers, and Rosalind and Celia are cousins, are best friends, and then Duke Senior and Duke Frederick are brothers, and Touchstone is a servant for Duke Frederick, but he followed Celia and Rosalind when they visited or when they went to Forest Arden. So these are the important characters are there. There are few more characters are also in the story. I'll introduce when the storyline begins. So let us go to the summary of the play as you like it. Diksha, am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Right. Right. So let us start the play. So it is a comedy. Genre is a comedy, and the two important protagonists, lady and hero and heroine of this play is Rosalind and Orlando. The plot is simple. Rosalando, the 14th century poem, The Tale of Gamelin, Thomas Lodge. So the Rosalind, the plot Shakespeare had taken from the Rosalind. It is a 14th century poem, The Tale of Gamelin, and it is written by Thomas Lodge, who was a university wit. So that's why Shakespeare has been considered as stealing themes of plots and stories from the university wits. The hero of this play is Orlando. The heroine is a Rosalind. It is like much like in Bollywood love story, and then it has 5 acts. Then summary, I'll just read out once and then I'll go with the act 1 or act wise explanation of the story. So summary is Rosalind, her cousin, escape into the forest and find Orlando, Rosalind's love. Disguised as a boy shepherd, Rosalind has Orlando woo her under the guise of curing him of his love for Rosalind. Rosalind reveals she is a girl and marries Orlando during a group wedding at the end of the play. So this is simple summary, but there is something much to explain. And then when we will go with the some important examination point of information, there is a very famous lines, all the world's stage and all the men and women merely players, the 7 stages of men. It is spread by Jocus and it is in Act 2 Scene 7. And then there is one more line, under the greenwood tree Emin spoke this line, and it is found in Act 2 Scene 5. Then Rosalind says in Act 1 and Scene 3, beauty provoked thieves sooner than gold. And then Rosalind only says another line, do you not know I am a woman, when think I must speak. So I don't want to pass comments on these things, just remember this in examination point of view. These are the lines spoken. And then Rosalind again says one more thing, I pray you do not fall in love with me, for I am falser than was made in wine. So it is a Rosalind dialogue spoken in the Act 3 and Scene 5. Now let us go to the Act wise summary. I will not read Act wise 1, Scene 2, Scene 3. I will generally explain the story. Then we will complete today's class with the example questions or practice questions. So the main storyline is about the Rosalind and Orlando's love story. What happens in the beginning of this play, as you like it? It begins, the setting is in the France. Where is the setting?
France.
It is setting is in the France. Now, what happened in the beginning of the story? That is the France which is near the forest of Arden. The gardener of Oliver's house, Orlando, who is the youngest son of the deceased Sir Roland de Boys. Let me just explain the story, otherwise it will take much time if I go with a line by line. Orlando is the hero of this play, and he has Oliver, brother, and when his father died, Sir Roland de Boys, when he died, he laments about his condition to the old family servant Adam. So Orlando and Adam, these two are important because these two went to forest of Arden. So Adam is a faithful servant to Sir Ronald de Boys. When he observed Oliver's mistreatment, ill treatment to Orlando, he suggested Orlando to move out of the place. He is oppressed and mistreated by his eldest brother Oliver, who educates his middle brother Jacques. So remember the names of the 3 brothers. Oliver is the eldest, Jacques is the middle, and Orlando is the youngest one. So Oliver, Jacques and Orlando, these are the 3 brothers. When Sir Ronald de Boys died, Oliver becomes the duke and he mistreats his younger brother Orlando. And when he came to know that the Charles, who is a wrestler, when he informed Oliver that Orlando wants to fight with Charles, when Charles informed this to Oliver, Oliver suggests him to kill Orlando, though he is from the noble family, or though he is from the same family. But Charles was a kind-hearted wrestler. He did not want to harm Orlando, so he left Orlando not to get too much hurt, and he managed Orlando to win the entire wrestling match. And in the same time, what happened, Rosalind, when she came to know that Orlando was fighting against Charles, she tries to persuade him, she tries to tell him that don't go because he is very young, but he didn't listen and he went and he won the match. So when he won the match, when Orlando won the match against Charles, Rosalind falls like love at first sight, and she offered her necklace to Orlando. When Duke the Frederick, when he saw this thing, when he questioned who is Orlando, when Orlando says that he is the son of Sir Ronald de Boys, Duke Frederick got angry because Duke Frederick is opposite or enemy of Sir Roland de Boys, because Sir Roland de Boys is a close associate of Duke the Senior. Duke the Senior was abolished or abandoned from the kingdom because of Duke Frederick. So Duke Frederick and Senior Duke are brothers. Sir Ronald de Boys is very close to Duke Senior. Then he threatened, and but he was not rude to Rosalind, because if he takes any action against Rosalind, the people in the kingdom, the people may go against Duke Frederick. So that's why he allowed Rosalind to stay in the court and be with Celia. Celia is the daughter of Duke Frederick. So when these things happen, Rosalind fall in love with Orlando, and Orlando also fall in love with Rosalind. But Orlando was not very well educated. He was not very polished or refined, so he was not able to express his love to Rosalind. But Rosalind and Orlando both fell in love at the love at first sight. Then in the subsequent stories, what happened when Duke de Frederick suspected Rosalind and Duke Senior doing some kind of conspiracy, he even told Rosalind also to go out of his kingdom, and then Rosalinda along with her cousin Celia, they moved from the Duke Frederick's kingdom to Forest of Arden. But when they were going, the faithful servant Touchstone also followed them. So three people, Duke the Senior along with his followers was already in the Forest of Arden, and Rosalind and Celia with Touchstone, they also went to Forest of Arden. But what they did is, Rosalind changes her appearance to a man, and Celia remains as Celia, like a normal shepherdess, and she follows Rosalind. But Rosalind changes her appearance and takes a name, an young man, Gynamate. So the Rosalinda's names in disguise is Gynamate, and Celia takes the name of, what is the name given to Celia? Yes, it starts with A, correct? What is the name? Can anybody help me? Danny ma'am. Dipti? Celia's name. What is the name of the Celia? Am I audible, Goji? Gosh, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible. I can remember the Ganymede's name, but I can't remember the pseudonym and the name of Celia.
Right.
It's Elena something, I think. Sir, I don't know the spelling. Elena something.
Right. I'm just trying to find. Elena, here it is there. Alina or Elena. So what we have to remember, Rosalind in disguise takes the name of Gynamate, and Celia takes the name of Alina. So Rosalind is in disguise and with the name Gynamate, and Celia in the disguise only, like a young shepherdess, a poor shepherd, and her name in that disguise is Elena. And now when they are in the Forest of Arden, Rosalinda also knew that her father, Duke the Senior, was also in the same Forest of Arden. Then what happens in the next scene when Duke Senior with his lords, you can see here it may be very little small, in the Act 2 Scene 1, Duke the Senior with his lords, Emrs and others, when they were there, two groups of people were already in the Forest of Arden. One is Duke Senior and his followers, and the second one is Rosalind and Celia and Touchstone. These two groups are already in the Forest of Arden. Then what happened? Oliver was called by Frederick and Duke de Frederick, and he threatened and he told that Orlando might have taken Rosalind, so there must be preparing a conspiracy against me. So Oliver, you have to go and find them live or dead. So Oliver, when he wanted to search for his brother, he came to know, Orlando came to know about all these things, and with his family servant Adam, you can see here, Adam, Orlando, they both escaped to Forest of Arden. So there are three groups of people, three stories are running in parallel. One is Duke Senior with his followers already in the Forest of Arden, and the second group of people, Rosalind, Celia and Touchstone, are already entered into the forest. And now third group are there. Who are those third group? Orlando and Adam. These two are in the forest. So these three groups of people are inside the forest, and they were not knowing that they were all in the same Forest of Arden, that is Forest of Arden. So then what happened? When Orlando and Adam, when they were moving in the forest, after a few days they feel very hungry and thirsty, and Orlando attacks Duke Senior's group and it threatens them to give food. But Duke the Senior behaved in a very good manner, and then he offered Orlando and Adam to take the food from them. Then when Duke the Senior inquired about the Orlando's family, he was very happy because Orlando's father, what is the name of the Orlando's father? Ronald D. Boyce was very close associate to the Duke the Senior, so he allowed Orlando and Adam to stay with them. But at the same time, what happened? Orlando met Rosalind and Celia, but Orlando did not understand that Rosalind is the one who is in the disguise of Ganymede. When Rosalind and Celia, when they were moving in the forest, they found the love poems written by Orlando and attached to the trees. So when Rosalind read the poems in the disguise of Ganymede, she says that these poems are written by somebody in a very lame language. But Celia says that it is not somebody, it is actually Orlando who had written these poems to express his love to Rosalind. And when Rosalind and Orlando met, Orlando did not recognize or did not realize that he is actually talking to his love interest, Rosalind, and he talks to Rosalind like a man because Ganymede is her appearance. And after few conversations and witty exchange of dialogues, then Rosalind told him in the disguise of Ganymede, she told him that she will give tuitions to him to how to express his love and how to attract women and how to successful in his love interest. And she asked Orlando to come to his place or her place every day so that she can teach him proper lessons so that he can become successful in his love life. So Rosalind in the disguise of Ganymede started giving lessons to Orlando, and every unappointed time Orlando used to visit Rosalind, and in the disguise of Ganymede she used to test how much Orlando loves Rosalind. And Rosalind doubt about the Orlando's love towards her because she believes that all lovers are mad people or they behave like a madman. But Orlando's behavior was not like, so she suspects Orlando's love interest towards Rosalind. And in this story, what happens when Oliver also enters in the forest of Arden to kill Orlando? One day, what happened when Orlando was coming to meet Rosalind, he found his brother was caught with a snake, and another moment he found that his brother was being attacked by a lioness. So he saved Oliver. Who is Oliver? Oliver is actually a wicked brother of Orlando who wants to kill Orlando. But when Orlando saved Oliver, Oliver also changes his character and he started liking his brother. But it became late for Orlando to reach Rosalind, and Rosalind was anxious why Orlando didn't come to talk to her about the love stories and all those things. So when Oliver came and told that Orlando saved him, and in that act of saving he had got injured, then suddenly when Rosalind listens this, though she is in the disguise of Ganymede, she faints. And at the end of not at the end, what happens later on, Orlando, Rosalind, Oliver, Celia, all they come together. When Oliver saw Celia, he believes that Celia is a very normal village girl, and he immediately fall in love with Celia, and Celia also fall in love with Oliver. So it is all love at first stories, and there are few more characters who also fall in love, like almost all young characters in the story, whichever you take, they fall in love and they wanted to become successful in the love in their love interest or love stories. And Ganymede in the disguise, Rosalind in the disguise of Ganymede gives her tuitions and gives her lectures and gives techniques and all those things to these lovers so that they can get united and their love stories become successful. So those are the few characters. Let me introduce. Touchstone also fall in love with one poor village shepherd, and then Forbes is another one, Sylvius is another one. So all these are in their love interest, and they wanted to here is there. Touchstone wants to marry Audrey, and he proposes to marry her and she accepts also. And then one more love story is also here, if I could remember properly. Sylvius, right, Sylvius, Sylvius, he proposes to Forbes, Sylvius and Forbes, but Forbes doesn't like Sylvius, and Forbes wants to marry Ganymede, who is actually Rosalind. So all these twists and turns creates a lot of fun, and all these things creates a lot of comedy. Now what happens at the end of this next act, or let us go to the next one. All these three groups meet, like the first group of Duke the Senior and his followers, and then Orlando, his faithful servant Adam, and then Rosalinda, Celia, Touchstone, Oliver, and all other characters when they meet, Rosalinda plays a very she's actually brilliant, intelligent, whatever you can use the words, very one of the best characters written by Shakespeare, and she manages to settle all the love problems, and finally she makes her father, Duke the Senior, who couldn't recognize or realize Rosalind as in who he was in disguise of Dynamite, so she made even Duke the Senior also to give Rosalind to Orlando, and Oliver marries to Celia. And in the same time, what happened when Duke de Frederick came to know that all these people, and especially Duke Senior, was also in the Forest of Arden, he wanted to enter in the Forest of Arden to kill or assassinate Duke the Senior, or to make Duke the Senior to go from that place. When he was traveling to the Duke the Senior's place in the Forest of Arden, Duke Frederick met a religious person, and because of the religious preachings of that person, he transformed into a good person, and he renounced or he left his kingdom to Duke the Senior, and he wanted to go to a monastery and to lead a normal, peaceful life. So all the stories ends in a very peaceful, and all the love interests have been accepted, all the love stories ends happily, and at the last of that play, Rosalind plays a very important role to marry to arrange marriages of all these pairs, and even at the end she happily marries to Orlando, but she changes her appearance. The Oliver tells Orlando that he has fallen in love with Elena. All this story you can read by yourself. So at the end of the story, all these love marriages happily completed, and they all have a happy ending. So Orlando marries Rosalind, Oliver marries Celia, and Touchstone marries whom? Touchstone marries, if I am not wrong, Touchstone marries Audrey, and Sylvius marries Phoebus. So all these love stories, different love stories in one single play, ends at the last in a happy way. Duke Senior welcomes his return fortune. When Duke Senior came to know that the Duke Frederick changed again, he retained his kingdom, he was also felt happy, which he will share with all of his comrades who had endured Stuart days. Lord Jacques wishes them all well, and despite Duke's entry to stay, departs to hear and learn from the newly converted Duke Frederick. So Duke Frederick become like a saint at the end of the story, and this entire play, As You Like It, ends with an epilogue by Rosalind speaks fondly to the audience and bids them goodbye. So this is the story with multiple plots with lot of twists and turns, written by Shakespeare, and the name of the comedy is As You Like It. This is from my side. If you have any questions before we start the questions practice, you can ask me one by one. Rani, Neil, Goji.
Yes, sir.
Venkatesh sir, Preeti ma'am.
Sir, I can understand the story, but I want to know the exception of As You Like It, Macbeth, Hamlet, King Lear, Othello. Means which dramas I should read. Means he has written almost 37 dramas. So which dramas I should read actually, with the exception of these dramas, sir?
See, you have to complete at least reading of the names of the characters and the plot of Shakespearean famous tragedies, Hamlet, Julius Caesar, Macbeth, Othello, and comedies As You Like It, Midsummer Night's Dream, and Tempest. These are enough according to me. If you want to read further, at least know few characters, at least know the plot and summary of the remaining, but you can't go with the 37 plays. It is practically not possible.
Yes, sir.
Right. What about Preeti ma'am, Diksha, Danny, Venkatesh sir, Deepti ma'am?
Okay.
Right. Venkatesh sir?
Sir, will you send the summaries in the group, sir? Because I joined the class late, sir, actually.
Yes, already screenshots are shared in the WhatsApp group, Diksha.
Okay, sir, then I'll do it.
Now let us go to the question answers. Because examination point of view, we have to practice the story. May be important, summary may be interesting, love stories and all those things, falling in love at first sight, all those things. But examination point of view, we have to go through the question answer. It is 6:45 from my side. We'll take 15 minutes time, and then we'll immediately start the general awareness class. And I want to ask you, Diksha, you are not attending general awareness classes. Why? Diksha, Preeti?
So actually, after that means as midterm exam is heading now, so that's why means again I am getting busy in that paper. So that is why, sir, I just. But now I will try to join the class, sir.
Right,
I'll
fine.
try, sir.
And I learnt one technical skill also today, that without asking you to leave the class, I can change the Google slides. I can shift from this slide to another slide without asking you to leave the class. Ghoshji helped me today. Right. So let us go with the question answers. Venkateshwar sir, am I audible? Venkateshwar sir? Okay. Today Ganesh Chaturthi. Because of me, you are all troubled. Sorry for troubling you. Let us start with Ghoshji. Ghosh.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
According to Oliver, what would Orlando bring to a wrestling match with Charles? It will be poison or some other deceitful means of securing
securing.
victory.
So this is advantage if you can read the story before attending class, correct Ghoshji?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. Second question, Ghosh.
Why does Oliver inherit the bulk of his father's estate? Oliver was the son least able to make his own way in the world. Oliver is the oldest son and therefore guaranteed the inherited by law. Next, Oliver is the more loving than his brothers. Oliver doctors his father's will. It will be option B only, I think.
Right.
Option B.
Oliver is the oldest son. There are three children. Oliver is the eldest, Jacques is the middle one, and the Orlando is the youngest one. Right. Next question, Goji.
At what event do Orlando and Rosalind meet? The wedding of Duke Frederick, wrestling match, public execution, traveling circus. It will be a wrestling match.
Right. It's a wrestling match. Good. Next, Danny ma'am.
Fourth question, no, sir?
Yes, fourth, fifth, sixth, three questions.
Okay. What name does Rosalind assume for the disguise itself? Ganymede, Job, Harry, Icarus. Ganymede, sir.
Right, it's Ganymede. Correct. Next question.
Why does Duke Frederick dislike Orlando? Orlando finds Rosalind more beautiful than the Duke's own daughter Celia. Orlando's brother Oliver owes the Duke a considerable sum of money. Orlando beat the Duke's prized wrestler Charles, and the Duke and Orlando's father were enemies. I think option 4, sir, Duke and Orlando's father were enemies.
Orlando finds Rosalind more beautiful than the Duke's own daughter Celia is wrong. Orlando brother Oliver owes the Duke a considerable sum of money. Orlando beats the Duke's prized wrestler Charles. The Duke and Orlando's fathers were enemies. This one is correct. Next question.
Upon his introduction in Act 2, Scene 1, Duke Senior gathers his loyal followers in the forest of Arden for what purpose? To hunt deer, to mount an army against Duke Frederick, to swim in the brook, to tease the melancholy jackals. To swim in the brook, sir?
To hunt deer.
To hunt deer, okay.
Right. Next set of questions. Diksha.
How does Duke Frederick plan to find Celia and Rosalind after their departure from court? He will interview every person in his castle until some confesses information as to his daughter's whereabouts. So he will recruit Oliver to help find Orlando, or said option number C. He will assume a disguise and go looking for them himself in the forest of Arden. So I'm just confused between B and C, sir.
Did you practice these questions before attending class? Because I shared
No,
the
sir.
Diksha. Diksha, I can't hear you. Can you hear Ghoshji, Diksha's voice?
No, sir.
Diksha, you please rejoin us. Suppose there is some technical issue. I can't hear you, Diksha. Right. Venkatesh sir, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's audible.
All right. So we'll go with the answer to the seventh question. How does Duke Frederick plan to find Celia and Rosalind after their departure from court? He will recruit Oliver to help find Orlando, whom he suspects he has teamed up with a woman. That is the correct answer. Diksha, can you hear me? Diksha? Right, she may rejoin. Venkatesh sir, please continue the eighth question.
Yeah, sure. On what topic does Corin attempt to counsel the young shepherd Silvius? The maintenance of the flock, love, the politics of court life, friendship.
Right. Answer is
The what? Sir, love.
love. Right. Next question, ninth question.
Upon arriving in the forest of Adrenaline, Adam claims that he will soon die. What does he assume the cause of his death will be? Is hunger.
Hunger. Right. Next. Preeti. She will read. Sir. Preeti. Preeti.
After an eye-opening stroll around the forest of Ardennes, what profession does Jacques intend to pursue? A shepherd, a highwayman, a fool, a butler? Think, sir, a shepherd?
A fool. After an eye-opening stroll around the forest of Ardennes, what profession does Jacques intend to pursue? He wanted to pursue the profession of a fool. Who can comment, and who can criticize anybody in the court. Next question.
How much time does Duke Frederick allow Oliver to find Orlando? 1 year, 1 month, 1 week, a fortnight?
1 year.
1 year.
See, these kind of answers, if you practice, it will be helpful in examination point of view, because the story, the summary may be important, but technical questions are important.
Got all the things. I have read the novel, but before 6 months ago, actually, and everything has just washed away from my brain. I have to revise it. What does this guy's Rosalind promise to do for Orlando? Woo Rosalind on his behalf, help him to overthrow his brother Oliver, help him to overcome his love sickness, provide him and Adam with shelter.
What does the disguised Rosalind promise to do for Orlando? She promises something to Orlando. That's why Orlando regularly takes tuitions from Rosalind, who is in disguise of Gynamite.
Yes. And who also falls in love with him, right, sir?
Rosalind and Orlando are lovers in the story. What does the disguised Rosalind promise to Orlando? Gynamite. Who's Rosalind on his behalf or help him to overcome his love sickness? This one is wrong. Provide him with Adam with shelter. Is this or this one or this one? Which one is correct? Let me just go through it.
And help him to overcome his love sickness.
What about others? Think I'm also not. Morning I did. Now I'm also not. Quickly recollect. I'll also check the answer by that time.
Overcome his love sickness, I think.
Wait a minute. Question number. Can you tell me question number? Right.
Yes, sir.
Correct. The answer is, I also not able to remember. Helps him to overcome his love sickness. Danny ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Helps him to overcome his love sickness. 3 questions. Let's go to the next one. Deepti ma'am. Deepti?
Yes, sir.
Please read the question. 13, 14, 15.
Virus, sorry. Why does Rosalind doubt that Orlando is truly in love? And she has heard him claim to be in love with Come on, it's too young to know what love is.
Which one is the answer, Deepti ma'am?
Fourth one, he is too young to know what love is.
The answer is love is madness and it does not look like a madman. So love is a kind of a disease, one of the greatest and powerful diseases. So when people fall in love, they'll behave like a mad persons. But Orlando doesn't show any kind of symptoms of that kind of madness. So she doubts that one. Next one, Deepti ma'am. Can you please read little quickly?
Yes, sir.
Read ma'am, 14th question.
Okay, what does Sylvius say of Phoebe's eyes? They are so amorous that they embrace him, embarrass him. They are so dull that they bore him. They are so beautiful that they intimidate him. They are so scornful that they will murder him.
Which one is correct? He says something about Phoebus' eyes. She is not looking very pretty.
No, I don't know, sir.
Fourth one. They are so scornful that they will murder him. Next question, Deepti ma'am.
Why does Rosalind believe that Phoebe should feel lucky? This one also I don't know. There's no need to believe. This one. His father has willed her a fortune, loving her to marry whomever she chooses. A man like Sylvius loves her despite her lack of beauty. She has no lover and therefore her heart will never be broken. By living in the forest, she is spared the cruel politics of life at court. Oh, this Sylvia, okay.
The answer is shepherd girl. The answer is a man like Sylvius loves her despite her lack of beauty.
Okay.
Next, Goshi.
Hi, sir. How does Phoebe respond to Ganymede's harsh criticism of her? She poisons her wine. She disguises herself as royalty in hope of putting him in his place. She writes him a love letter. She employs Charles the Restless to beat him up.
So Phoebe is actually in love with the Ganymede. Phoebe was not aware about Ganymede is not actually a man, it is Rosalind. So she writes him a love letter. Let me check the answer is correct. She writes him a love letter, correct. Next, 17th question.
Whom does Orlando save from the attack of a hungry lioness? That is his brother Oliver.
Correct. Next question.
Next, what does Rosalind do after learning of Orlando's injury? She paints him an angry but concerned letter telling him to be more cheerful. She wishes at the thought of losing him. She delivers a cutting speech about the ridiculousness of bravery. I think it will be first answer. She faints.
Correct. Okay, so these are the few questions from this play as you like it. So quickly let us recapitulate what we have learnt today in this class. We have 2 more minutes. We will complete today's English literature. Then without leaving the class, we will move to the general awareness class. So in this class, we discussed Shakespearean comedy features. Shakespearean comedy contains not only commoners, normal people, ordinary people, even noble characters also there, and the common ordinary people can make fun of the noble characters in the Shakespearean comedy. And in Shakespearean comedy, heroines got importance, and the mistaken identity or misconceptions are part of Shakespearean comedies, and exaggerating of own follies and mistakes are part of this Shakespearean comedies. And there are multiple plot lines or plot twist will be there, and these Shakespearean comedies are didactic in nature. That means they try to teach something to the audience, and it has lot of songs and dances and element of disguise, like Rosalind is in the disguise of Ganymede, and then idealistic settings are in Shakespearean tragedy, the important place where the evil characters turns into good characters, or the bad people become good people. Into that particular place is called Forest of Arden. This place, examination point of important, the place in which Shakespearean evil characters becomes good is Forest of Arden, and it is actually Shakespeare's mother's place. And then in Shakespearean comedies, it is the fate which plays a crucial role, and most of the Shakespearean comedies are love stories, so there is a separation, reunification of the lovers in the story, and all the Shakespearean comedies ends with a happy note. And then the poetic justice, good to good people, bad to bad people, is done in the Shakespearean comedy. And we have to understand Shakespearean followed the three unities: unity of action, unity of place and space, and unity of time, only in one play, and that is the Tempest. And Aristotle in 16th century came with two unities, that is unity of place and space, and then second one is unity of time. And every tragedy has 5 acts, and we have discussed, or we completed the summary and the question answers of As You Like It. It is one of the best comedies written by Shakespeare, and here the important characters are Rosalind, and she is the female lead or the female protagonist, and Orlando is her lover, or Orlando is the male protagonist of this story. And then Rosalind's father is Duke Senior, and Duke Senior's brother is Duke Frederick. And then we have Rosalind's best friend is Celia. Rosalind and her friend Celia and Touchstone, they escaped to the forest of Arden. Duke Senior, who was banished by Duke Frederick, was also living in forest of Arden. And Orlando, with his faithful servant Adam, went to forest of Arden, and in search of Orlando, Oliver also went to forest of Arden. And these people fall in love with love at first sight. Let Orlando fall in love with Rosalind, and Oliver fall in love with Celia. And all these love stories ends at with a happy note, at the happy ending at the end of the story. So Rosalind marrying Orlando, and Oliver marrying Celia, Touchstone marrying Andrina, I suppose, and Sylvia marrying Phoebus. All the stories ends in a very happy wedding. That means all the characters are lead roles end with a happy marriage. So this is from my side, and I will stop this recording, and then I'll just open another slide for the general studies class. If you have any questions, you can ask me. 1 second, 1 minute can take time. Any questions with this story?
No, sir.
Right. So now you need not to leave the class. I will just change the slide. We'll move to the general.